Hey, it's Cap's CarCast. Today we're going to talk about one important key to culture. Let's drive.
Get down. Get down. Get down.
So I do a occasional, I wish it was weekly, it's almost weekly, but it's an occasional podcast that I call Leading Matters. Here you can check out the episodes right here. And basically the idea of the podcast is to talk about just that, issues that impact leadership, and also to underscore the fact that leadership really makes a difference in an organization. You know, so many think and mistake management as leadership, but they're really two different disciplines. So that's what it's all about. I think, look, the great thing I like about doing it is I gain so much from it, because I talk to business leaders mostly in and around the Philadelphia region, but also some folks nationally. And you really start to hear a lot of consistent themes from these leaders that have successfully built up businesses, that have successfully built out their teams, their departments. So it's incredibly edifying. I love it. So check it out. I think you'll gain from it as well. You can download it. It's on Stitcher. You can get it on the iTunes App Store as well, or I guess iTunes it is. At any rate, give it a listen. Let me know what you think. But one thing that comes across in almost every interview is that the culture of the organization has a dramatic impact upon what and how we're executing our mission. And that the success of the culture is developed early on by how people are brought into the organization. Cassandra Bailey, who owns Slice Communications here in Philadelphia region, and here's Cassandra's here. Go ahead and listen to that one. But she talked about the realization of how important culture is, and changed their interview process to inject culture right up front in the process, to the point where the typical screening wasn't happening for there's obviously table stakes required for individual positions, but beyond that, the screening included screen for culture. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I believe that many leaders, many organizations do not have a consistent interview process. And I know I'm guilty of this myself. You know, I've hired many people over the course of my career, and the interviewing process has been kind of haphazard. You know, you'll have 4 to 5 people interview an individual, but there's really not much consistency over what you're trying to gain, other than the subjective opinion of how someone's performance may be predicated across the organization. So that's, I think, a really big key here is, you know, if you want to make a difference to how you're developing your team, how you're protecting the culture within your organization, how you're identifying talent externally and bringing them into what is many times a family. You know, a lot of businesses speak about their work family, if you will, not to toss around the word family in a glib way, but to underscore the fact that, look, this is a huge part of people's lives, and it has a dramatic impact on not just their career progression, but their very well-being in many cases, right? So how do you protect all that? Well, I think that's the thing you really ought to take a look at. Go back and look at your interview process. What and how are you executing the screening? Even go before that. How are your recruiters sourcing ahead of your demand? And if you're a large organization, you have recruiters on staff, you know, the good recruiters source way ahead of your demand. They understand the strategy of the organization, and then they start to source for candidates, or at least connect themselves with those talent communities that are going to help nail the objectives and the strategy and the tactics of the organization. So if you're a large enough organization to have recruiters, take a look at them first. If you're a small company, what are you doing to collaborate with people that are not within your organization, to get to know the members of the talent communities that exist out there that would, in one way or another, positively impact where you're headed? And then what's the next step? When you have a job opening up, what is it that you're looking for? And not, again, in the skill set way, because that's an obvious one. You're going to hire somebody who's got the right skill sets. But more importantly, how are they going to perform and impact your organization culturally? And the only way to do that is to come up with some consistent method that takes a subjective and makes it a little bit more objectively measurable. Now, it doesn't have to be some big, complicated process. It doesn't have to be overtly documented or, a cumbersome burden of again, process, but it needs to be at least well defined so you know exactly what the team that's interviewing is looking for, what you're trying to get at, how you're going to measure for these softer elements of the diversity of personalities, of skills as they connect with collaborating, and most importantly, protecting probably the most important area of your workforce, which is your culture. So that's what I would suggest today, is take a look at how you're developing your talent way before that talent actually comes into your organization. Hey, one last thing. Hopefully you're enjoying these. If you are, why not consider subscribing to Cap's CarCast? Thanks, and we'll see you next time.